I started the Drain Man in 2001 because I saw a massive market for this solution. And it's grown very quickly. We do have an alternative to ripping up pathways, earth, cutting down trees to fix drainage problems. And tree roots are the major cause as to why we have issues in drains. So I take it I'm just not using a clicker?
Yeah, arrow down.
Yeah. So we have some mutual purposes. The Victorian Tree Industry Association is committed to working with various bodies to advance the interests of the arboricultural industry and reduce unnecessary destruction of trees. The Drain Man's committed to maintaining, preserving and restoring the drainage systems of our clients using methods which minimise the impact on trees, gardens and the environment in general. Can trees and drains coexist? We have a little presentation on a video that might help explain it a little better.
In Melbourne, we love our trees. From the leafy tree-lined streets of the eastern suburbs to outer fringe suburbs like Eltham and the Dandenongs. But while trees may bring us joy above ground, they can cause significant problems underground. Tree roots love two things, moisture and nutrients, and they find both inside drains and sewers. Sadly, some people think the only way to solve the problem is to cut down the trees or dig up the drains, or both, but that's not true. Trees and drains can live together. The latest developments in drain relining technology mean that both stormwater drains and sewers can be relined from the inside without digging.
First, a camera is inserted into your drain to confirm the exact location of the problem. Next, the drain liner is measured and cut on site. A two-part resin is mixed and poured into the liner. Then an inflatable bladder is used to ensure the lining will take the same shape as the drain. The lining is pulled into place, inflated and left to harden. Then the bladder is deflated and removed, leaving behind a fully sealed relined drain. A second camera inspection shows the relined section is smooth and leak-free. Drain relining can be done for short or long sections of drains, on junctions, and bends or traps. You can reline PVC, cast iron or earthenware drains. A relined drain is stronger than the original drain and it's guaranteed for 40 years. There's no need to cut through driveways, dig up gardens or remove and replace significant plants or trees. And we can reline drains in hard to access places that would take forever to dig by hand. Your place looks the same before relining as it does after relining. Don't suffer constantly blocked toilets, sinks or stormwater drains that damage your property. Talk to the Drain Man about the benefits of relining your drain.
So I hope that made some sense. Gave you a little bit of visual as to how we soak epoxy resin into a felt product like this. It's basically a big sock. We pull it into the drain and inflate it and leave it inflated until the epoxy resin, which is basically glue, cures. We then deflate the bladder and remove the bladder out of the drain, leaving the liner in it, and you basically got a new drain. So we reline in excess of 1,000 drains a year, and we can put multiple liners into those drains. You don't need to line the whole drain, you can line just where the tree root's growing in. We've experienced just about every type of situation that you can imagine. Historical properties, industrial, commercial, residential. All our staff are registered, at least registered plumbers. Some of them are licensed. They all work under my licence, so I have to make sure that we do the right thing. Otherwise I'll lose my licence and then I've lost my income. And we have a proud record of a 0% failure rate. So basically that means that we will not walk away from a job without you having at least had a proposal put to you. We will not walk away from a job and say, we can't clear these tree roots. We will not walk away from a job and say we can't line it. First of all, we diagnose the cause. We find out exactly what's going on with our in-drain cameras. We then record the vision and show you guys, the client, whoever the client may be, exactly what's going on inside the drain. The Realigning System offers a faster, more affordable and less intrusive alternative to digging. And it's important to give that option to the client. There are certain circumstances where relining mightn't be the best solution because it's only 300 mil deep and it's under grass. So you can dig and replace. We can drill out drains. So we've found equipment that's enabled us to go down an earthenware pipe that is broken and it might be dislodged against the flow even. We'll drill that earthenware out and then we'll pull a liner into it. And we'll give the drain the gradient it requires by doing so. Maximum length we've lined in a void is 4 metres in length, where at one end there was pipe, at the other end there was pipe and nothing in between. So you can see from a couple of photos here, usually when a drain is broken you'll get an influx of dirt and other materials coming in. We'll clean that all up. We'll identify on the right hand side of that little slide there where the break is. And after we've identified it, we can pull a liner in, and that's what you end up looking like after we've lined the drain. So you can see that whilst the liner blows out into the void a little bit because of the pressure that the compressed air puts on a liner, it's minimal. The other thing is that with the increase in flow rate due to the lack of friction against this product, the actual flow rate is increased. So the capacity of the drain is compensated for by the 2.3 millimetres that is the thickness of this liner. I developed an exclusive arrangement with the National Trust. Strategy's become a pretty important word for our business, and it became more and more important that we helped organisations like the National Trust out. So basically, relining helps preserve the significant trees that surround places like Ripponlea and Como. And the benefits extend to the National Trust members with funding mechanism to help support drain works on the Trust properties. So previously they might have called a local plumber out for a property in Castlemaine, which they have. We now go there, give them an end-to-end service, and it all basically gets funded in a roundabout way, which is a win-win-win situation for us, obviously, for the National Trust members and the National Trust as an organisation. So we've done a lot of work at Ripponlea. Their drains are over 120 years old. There's lots of them that are in all sorts of trouble with masses of tree roots. And we've gone in and cleaned up their drains. And we're now on a path to providing them with worry-free drains for a long period of time. And what struck me was the first time I ever got called out there was a Monday after a weekend where they'd cancelled someone's wedding because the sewer had blocked up and it had flooded the function room. And that's when I started to think about how we can get involved in that situation. So that's basically what we're trying to say there is before and after you don't see any difference. All our stuff's below ground. We don't need to dig holes to line. Some years ago, the only lining systems that were around were where you had to have access at either end, and if you didn't have access at either end, you had to excavate to make access. That is no longer the case. So we use an internationally patented pull-in-place liner. The host product is a system called NewFlow. It's out of Canada. It can be installed in all cases with minimum setup. It preserves and extends the working life of the existing drains. It reinforces and strengthens the existing drains walls without the need to replace the drain. It prevents further tree root intrusion into the drains, reduces likelihood of further blockages and flooding. And it carries a 40-year warranty. It's a manufacturer's warranty on the product. Because we're plumbers and I'm a licensed plumber, we also provide you with a Victorian Building Authority certificate of compliance, which guarantees our workmanship for the 6 years that's required. Basically, if you found a liner in 25 years' time, our attitude is that was a problem. Our attitude is we go and find out what happened. We haven't got down the track that far. I don't see any reason why there would ever be a problem. Test results that are available, it's potable water approved. So we quite often find in rural properties where they're on tank water and they use that tank water for drinking, we can put a potable approved resin into that drain and they can continue to use their rainwater for drinking. There's a flow rate comparison chart, there's a compression test, a flexure test, concrete beam test. So basically that was, we tried to beat the hell out of the drain. The concrete broke before the liner did. An abrasion test, and basically that means if you've got movement in the ground and it's rubbing on the liner, it'll have to rub thousands of times before it wears its way through. And MSDS sheets are available on all the products. Our pushrod cameras are an amazing bit of gear, and technology has moved amazingly in the last, even in the last 2 or 3 years, where we're getting a camera that can inspect anything from 50 mil in diameter right up to 125 mil in diameter using the same pushrod cable. Then there's other cameras, pushrod, that will pushrod right up to 600 mil in diameter. Now, they won't give you the same vision as a tractor camera, but tractor cameras have come a long way now. There's a tractor camera about to come into Australia, and the quality of the vision is enormous. It's basically 25 pictures taken every second as the camera goes down the drain. So pushrod cameras can go to a distance of 60 metres, which covers off on most residential properties, certainly 100 mil drains. It's an initial and quick diagnosis. It's very accurate. It's used together with our jetting and electric drain clearing machines. So high pressure water jets are used in conjunction with the camera so we can see where we're going. We've just found a camera / jetter all in the one unit out of Germany that allows us to see when we come up to a junction. We can turn left or right depending on how we get the water to go. And the monitor records to USB or DVD. DVDs are almost gone. It's all going to USB nowadays. Tractor cameras have the detail to the requirements of WASA 05 and distances up to 320 metres. So you're looking at a tractor camera in a drain above 100 mil, and you would need pit-to-pit entry to get a tractor camera into a drain above 100 mil. All of our trucks are fully equipped with all of the gear that we might need. We've engineered purpose-built canopies on Toyota Hiluxes to keep them compact, and we've always tried to keep safety and quality standards in the forefront of our mind. And we provide the capability to be able to meet the requirements first time, every time. We've got an inflated bladder here that's got it's just got a bit of air in it, and that's our measuring device is there to know that it's at the required pressure, and we measure that before we put that in the ground to make sure it's not leaking. That's been inflated since about 10 o'clock this morning, and it's just going to stay that way until the epoxy resin cures. So feel free to come and jump on that if you can.
So you've got the sleeve on the outside.
Yep.
Inside you've got a balloon that's filled with the resin.
Yes, that's correct. No, the balloon's doesn't have resin in it. The resin is soaked into the felt liner. So the felt liner is the white thing, It has the epoxy resin put into it, and we then inflate the bladder to push the felt out against the internal diameter of the host product. We soak it in. So we would hold, have we got a piece of felt? Sorry?
The questions might be a little bit wipe off on going up the pipe.
Minimal, and when you get a little bit of resin sticking to the host product on the way through, it's like a, it'll break off eventually. It's a tiny little bit of, you don't get any resin leaking out of this to any great degree until such time as you inflate the bladder. When you inflate the bladder, it pushes the resin out. And the resin is basically a glue.
And then it dries and hardens. So this is the felt without the resin added to it, inflated and inserted into the drain, hardens, then we deflate the bladder, pull it out, and so that's your inside lining of the drain.
So Matthew's got a bladder up there that's just been made up with no resin in the felt. And it isn't inflated, so it's tied up with masking tape, and the masking tape breaks as soon as we start to inflate it. So basically we can line any host product, PVC, earthenware, brass, copper. We can do junctions. So there's a junction liner with Matthew up there, 45 degrees. It's the only, what I call a lateral connection liner that lines the whole of the junction. If anybody tries to tell you that a top hat lines the whole junction, it only lines the top of the half of the pipe. It's okay if the bottom part of the drain is sound. If the bottom part of the drain's got true roots coming into it, you've got problems with a top hat. And we can line voids, as I said before. That's basically me, unless you've got more questions. Yes?
How do you stop the bladder adhering to the wire?
Okay, so it has a... How do you stop the bladder adhering to the liner? Basically, there's a plastic between the two, and we lubricate that plastic. So it allows the bladder only to move when it's been let down.
What happens if there's a tree root that's gone through the pipe?
We'll cut it out.
So you can cut it.
Basically, we cut the tree root out and then line however long we need to line. Yes?
You mentioned earlier that if it had shallow trench, it might be more cost effective to dig it up and reline.
Yep.
In that circumstance, would you still use PVC, or are you now running that product
No, you'd use PVC. Yeah. The only problem with PVC is that if you get a plumber who hasn't glued the joints together properly, tree roots are going to grow in there. The PVC is fine. It's the installer that causes the problem. This system does not fail. It's the installer that causes any problems. This liner or this bladder does not know how to stuff up. It's only the installer that makes a problem, and that's why we have the policies we have with our company. If we have we make a blue, we're lining a trap, let's say, and sometimes they don't open up because the installer doesn't do his job the way he's supposed to. That's at our cost to fix that problem. There's been another guy. To be brutally honest, it depends what it's under. If it's under concrete, we're going to be well and truly in the game.
I can give you an example of that. We had an applicant for a tree. She had 3 trees on her property. 2 of them were really tall, and we would have given them permits. Under the one good tree she had on her property, she wanted to keep as a boundary trap. And she said the plumber said there's a $20,000 bill. I'm cutting the tree down, digging up the hole, and putting it back. I talked to her about this. there's no way I could force her, but I said, have you thought about it, have you heard about it, if you really want to save your tree? I heard later she spent $8,000 getting it relined, and she kept the tree. So that's, I think that's the value, that's the story that I saw, it takes me.
Absolutely.
It all depends on the before, on the location though.
Absolutely.
In the backyard,
Yep.
it'll be cheaper to dig.
Yep.
But the other feature is with the liner, if the root intrusion is coming in a junction, for instance, we can put one liner in a junction. For a plumber to dig that up, he has to go to the closest joint. So he's got to do a trench at minimum 6 metres, and he's got to do it in 2 different directions. You can imagine the mess that makes. So we do it all, and much less work. Time is money, of course.
And part of our job, just by the way, is to tell the customer, hey, listen, you're better off to dig this up. You know, there's no point in us telling a customer, yeah, line this section of drain, but it's under grass and it's going to cost you, you know, $1,000, but our cost is $4. We're not in business to do that. Oh, it's a brilliant product. It's the best one I've found in the world for a pull-in-place system.
We might just have one more question.
There's one
I'm
just
writing questions down because there's a Q&A session at the end of the day. So
Yeah. How do you join where to join? Yeah. How do you sort of connect those two?
It's
how do you this here? That junction liner is made in one piece.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Well, the bladder is made with a branch off it,
Okay.
and so is the liner. So the liner is manufactured to have a 45 or 90 degree junction off it. Yeah. No worries. There was one other question just here. The lady she had her hand up early. Yep. She was a bit disappointed by.
I just had a question when you're slip-lining a pipe and you're joining it into an existing pipe.
Yep.
How do you guarantee those joints?
Like any other joint in the pipe.
But so it's an actual joint. You're not just.
No, I'd call it a transition. So there's no actual join. The end of the liner here gets pushed out by the design of the bladder and its yellow sleeving here. So the transition is smooth, there's no join as such.
So there shouldn't be a leak at those points.
Oh, absolutely not, no. Most drains aren't under pressure. Yeah, when they're carrying water, stormwater or sewer, they're not under pressure. So what you don't want is tree roots growing any way into that transition. That's the only concern I've ever had. I've never had anything happen where tree root has got in between the host product and the liner and forced their way out the end. I haven't seen it.